All right, a look at the nation's capital this hour, where MPs are set to vote for a new Speaker of the House of Commons tomorrow after MP Anthony Rota stepped down last week, and his resignation came on the heels of revelations that on the Friday prior that the House of Commons had recognized and had a standing ovation for somebody who was a former Nazi soldier. The House is required to have a speaker in order to proceed, but members of Parliament agreed to temporarily allow the House to continue sitting under the watch of an interim speaker. MPs who are not party leaders are automatically considered candidates for the position unless they opt out. Those who want the job will be allowed to rise in the House and speak ahead of tomorrow's vote. Joining us now for more is Scott Reid, CTV News political commentator. Scott, great to see you.
Hey, Lois.
All right, Scott, so a lot of people are going to be probably paying attention to this, given all the controversy after what happened with Anthony Rota and the reason for his resignation. What will MPs be taking into account when they choose the next speaker?
Well, first and foremost, it's a minority parliament. So you got to keep that in mind, right? So no single party, like the government can't just sort of crack the whip and say, all right, guys, you know what? We decided that our preferred choice here as the government party is to go with this person. You really could see a wide open race. And there's tons of people bringing forward their name. All of the deputy speakers and assistant deputy speakers, basically all the understudies are competing. So what to watch for? You know, will the House decide, you know what? Let's try to get someone from the opposition, because we're a minority parliament. Will they say, let's pick the nice person. Let's pick the person that we really trust and we think is going to be fair. That's the first and foremost qualification of the speakers, that they treat everybody reasonably, fairly and with respect. Will they say, you know what, we haven't had a woman since the early 1980s. We haven't had a Quebecer for quite some time. So it's going to be a bunch of those sorts of considerations and trade-offs. And here's the real trick. It's a ranked ballot. And that means that the front runner in the first ballot doesn't usually emerge as the winner. So there's a little bit of electoral strategy involved as well.
Right. And so who are maybe some of the standout contenders in your mind?
So just as that little piece of footage you saw is Anthony Rota, you know, in light of the resignation and the controversy last week, was stepping down. You're seeing a gentleman walk up to the chair. That was Chris D'Entermont from Nova Scotia. He's a Conservative member of Parliament, and he's well respected. You know, a Canadian member of Parliament, so fluently bilingual and bicultural. So he's certainly a front runner. The other assistant deputy, what they call assistant deputy speakers. Carol Hughes from Ontario, an NDPer, Alex Mendez, a Quebec member of Parliament for the Liberals. There's a bunch of other Liberals putting their names forward. There's a fellow named Sean Casey from Prince Edward Island making the case that the island has never had a speaker. He's also a really well-liked guy who I think is well-liked across the aisle. You know, you've got, and my favorite buzz and rumors going around is that our friend, the leader of the Green Party, is thinking about throwing her name in. So that could get super crazy interesting. And, you know, frankly, she shouldn't really be able to run, but she's kind of a co-leader of the party. And it's kind of goofy, and I don't give it a lot of likelihood. But we'll see how she goes.
Scott, that is an interesting point, because I thought of the same thing. Technically, would she be allowed? But what else do you think might happen? Do you think that this might get a bit contentious?
Well, it can. We probably won't see that. Where it gets contentious is behind the scenes. I mean, typically what happens is you've got to be able to reach out and foster support as an individual candidate among people who are not from your party. That's obviously vital when you're in a minority parliament. So you think about, well, if it's going to be a government member, you know, there was going to be, say, Alex Mendez. Does she command the respect of, say, Bloc Québécois members? And she goes to them and says, listen, I'm a Quebecer. Come on, let's, join there. If it's a Conservative like Chris D'Entermont, does he say to government members, you know me to be fair? And hey, it's not a bad idea, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, to take one of the voting members for the opposition off their benches and into the speaker's role. So you'll get that kind. Will we see open warfare where people will be like, that person is no good? It's not that kind of election. It's by secret ballot. It's only one ballot because it's a ranked ballot, so you only vote once. But yeah, there's a lot of intrigue going on today and over the past few days. So you can bet a lot of phone lines burning up.
And just finally here very quickly, Scott, I wonder if you think we're going to see any changes being made to the way the office of the Speaker operates moving forward. I'm thinking, of course, of their own independent privileges when it comes to things like inviting people to the House to be recognized.
I don't think you'll see wholesale changes, to be honest. I do think that most people say this was such a peculiar, unique circumstance. It's hard to imagine it could be replicated. But, it might be that some of the candidates running will say, look, I do think we should take a look at what the protocols are and have a review of that. What's the interface between the chief protocol officer for Canada, between government and departmental reviews, security reviews, and the privileges of the speaker and other members to just submit names for a list. So you might see some of that. But I don't think this is going to be one of those speakers races where people say, I'm running on a platform of radical reform. These people get a house, they get apartments, they get all sorts of control over the parliamentary precinct and great big budgets. It's a powerful position. So I think you see that they want those spoils.
Okay, Scott Reid, I have to leave it there. Thanks as always.
Thanks, Lois.